Welcome. It's so great to have you here for another section of the LRT, the Loving Relationships Training with Sondra Ray. I hope you've been enjoying these segments, and they're tidbits of wisdom from Sondra Ray, her many years of teaching the Loving Relationships Training around the world. I look forward to hearing about this subject myself from Sondra Ray, so I hope you will too, and thank you for being here, and let's get on with it.
Hi everyone, welcome. I'm so glad you're here with me. Today is section 14 of these videos, and I'm going to talk about the duration of a relationship. How long should a relationship last? Well, some people would say only as long as it's appropriate. Well, what does that mean? And other people would say only as long as you are growing together. Well, let's look at this a little bit deeper. The reality is that all relationships are not meant to be long-term. Yes, we might want our relationship to last forever, but some relationships are karmic, and you are supposed to be with that person just for a few years. I had several relationships like that lasted 2 years before I found my life partner, Marcus. And I never judged myself when it ended. That's the important thing. Don't judge yourself, because maybe you're only supposed to be with that person that amount of time. Maybe you had some karma to clear and you did it, so it's time to move on. For example, I had a marriage a long time ago that lasted 7 years, and I was angry at God at that point because my father had died, so I married an atheist. And of course, that didn't work. And so it was right for me to leave that marriage. Then I had quite a few relationships that lasted only 2 years. And those were karmic relationships. And at the end of 2 years, we were kind of done. I never judged myself, fortunately, that they ended after 2 years. And I recommend you do that. Not judge yourself. Okay, there are what we call 7 outlaws, which are 7 main reasons why you probably want a divorce or a separation. And the first one would be infidelity. If your mate is not loyal to you sexually, you probably don't want to stay in that relationship. Or if number 2, they are sexually acting out, that means they're having like an emotional affair. Maybe they're not having sex with someone, but they're emotionally involved, almost romantically with someone. Number 3 would be violence. You certainly don't want to stay in a relationship where someone is violent with you. Number 4 would be lying. You don't want to stay with someone who's not telling you the truth. Number 5 would be extreme self-destructive behavior. If your partner is really being destructive with himself or you, you just do not want to be in that relationship. Another reason you might want to end the relationship is addictions. If your partner is a severe alcoholic or addicted to drugs, that might not be a very good situation for you to be in. Especially if they're not willing to look at it and seek some help. Maybe you can determine if they're really serious about getting help, and maybe you can handle that. The last major one would be criminality. You don't want to be with someone who's a criminal or who's breaking the law. So I would say those 7 things are reasons for ending a relationship. Actually, we had a client whose partner was a drug dealer, and she actually was staying in that relationship, but it ruined her life. She was not happy, and it made her have guilt, and then she had children with him, and she got really stuck in that situation. So be careful. This is kind of a serious subject. I would like to make it light, but it's kind of heavy. So if you happen to be breaking down in this relationship, emotionally, physically, mentally, spiritually, it's probably not good for you to stay much longer. You could end up getting really sick. Now here's a big challenge. Let's say one partner is advancing rapidly on their spiritual growth and the other one is making no movement at all and no growth at all. This can become a serious problem because they're on different wavelengths, and I call it the different elevator syndrome. A lot of times we see people in couples where one partner is really working on themselves, for example, getting a lot of rebirthing sessions, clearing their karma, clearing their unconscious, clearing their death urge, clearing their birth trauma, and all these great things they're clearing, and their mate isn't clearing anything. So this is going to put them on totally different vibrational levels. And in fact, the person that is not working on themselves is going to constantly be activated in the presence of the other person who's getting clear, because the person getting clear is becoming more and more loving. And we say love brings up anything unlike itself. What does that mean? That means love is such a powerful energy, it pushes up your subconscious. It pushes up the subconscious in your mate if you're giving them a lot of love. And if they're giving you a lot of love, that pushes up the subconscious in you. So let's say one person is really working on themselves and getting really clear and they're getting more loving, and the other one isn't. Well, the one who isn't working on himself, he's going to be what we call activated. And that means his subconscious material is going to keep coming up, and since he's not clearing it, it's going to cause a lot of anger and potential fights. The point I'm making is when a couple has extreme different vibrational levels, this creates a great strain on the relationship, and it could lead to breakdown. What works is both people in the couples are growing together and having the same vibration. So it may be necessary for ties to be broken when the couple is not at the same vibrational level. So what I'm saying, it's probably better to end a relationship when the different elevator syndrome is just too great. They're not even on the same elevator. This does not work. I had a client once who came and he sat down, and he was a very wealthy lawyer, very well dressed. And I said to him, I just want to make sure that you understand your thoughts create your results. And he said, I don't believe that. And I said, sir, right here is where your marriage is stuck, because your wife totally understands that and she wants you to understand that. And he refused to get it. I gave him a session and he had a pretty good experience, but then he decided he didn't need that. So he went home and she finally just divorced him because she saw he wasn't even willing to understand basic metaphysics. Thoughts create results. How can you solve anything if you don't know your thoughts create results? Another reason for breaking up is the karma of the two people has ended, as I said, or maybe their destinies are different and they have different work to do. Like I had a really good relationship for a couple years with this musician, and he wanted to go on and study music in another city. And I wanted to stay in San Francisco and become a skilled rebirther. So we parted, and we parted as friends, because we had different destinies. Sometimes people are in a relationship where one is more committed than the other. Now that is no fun at all. How would you feel if you're really committed and your mate is sort of half committed? Half there, half in, and half out. That doesn't work. What is needed is both people in the relationship have to be equally committed. Otherwise, it's going to be a rocky relationship, and one person always has his or her foot out the door. Or are you in a relationship where you want your mate more than he or she wants you? Well, that's no fun. That's kind of a form of punishment. I mentioned before in an earlier video that there are 3 types of joining. 1 is the karmic tie, 2 is the sexual tie, and 3 is the cosmic tie. So the karmic tie is where you're together because you have some severe past lives to work out. And there's a book you can read about that called We Were Born Again to Be Together. Well, that's the karmic tie. The sexual tie is all about the lower chakras. Oh, we have such great sex, we should get married. And that's not a very good thing to build a relationship on that's lasting. The cosmic tie, which is the one I asked for, is where you ask your master or God to put you together with the right mate with whom you can do some spiritual service work. And the master knows exactly who that would be. So that's what I asked for. And obviously you can tell that that is the kind of relationship that would be wonderful. So in the cosmic tie, you are together for the evolution of your souls, like we talked about, and you have a mission together. Well, your mission together could be raising a family, or your mission together could be some service project, or both. A lot of people are staying in bad relationships because they're afraid of being alone. They think if they end this terrible relationship, they'll end up alone and they won't be able to find somebody else. I just want to remind you, you do not have to be alone in life. When you're ready to join, others who are ready to join will find you. It even says that statement in the Course in Miracles. Often you're going to get someone better, but you have to be open. You have to be open and willing to try again and not be bitter that the person left or that it ended or that you had to end it. So I'm going to tell you a story. I used to have this pattern where I had a thought and men leave me because my father was always sick and dying and going to the hospital, and then he finally died when I was young. So I had a thought and men leave me. So I would be in these really good relationships, and one day my boyfriend would come home and say, I have to leave. I said, are you upset with me? He'd say, no. I said, are you upset with this relationship? I thought we were having a good time. And he'd say, no, I just have to leave. That's how strong my thought was. So once after this happened, I was really devastated. And I was on my way to India to meet my master. And I got to New Delhi. I was walking in the park, and I started commiserating. I was feeling really bad and sad, and I was wishing he was there, and I was moping around. And suddenly I heard a voice in the air, and this voice said, what if leaving could be a joy? And I said, that is ridiculous. I said that out loud because I couldn't imagine leaving could be a joy. And I was arguing with this divine voice. And then the voice got louder and said, just wait till you see what we have for you next.
Say that part again.
Just wait till you see what I have for you next. And I was so ashamed, and I fell to the ground, and I said, pardon me, God, for my lack of faith. And I got up and I dropped it. So I went up to the Himalayas and I met Babaji, and he gave me so much. He gave me such a wonderful life that was so beyond that little life that I had before. I couldn't even believe I had worried about it. There's a line in the Course in Miracles that says, loss is not loss when properly perceived. One of my friends said, all loss is gain not recognized. So when you let go of someone, that leaves room for you to get someone else. And the universe is so wonderful that it will give you someone better. So when someone leaves, the universe is trying to give you someone better. So let go. Now, it doesn't do any good to remain bitter if you break up. You know, I had this one student, she was married to a doctor, and they got divorced, and she was really angry at him. She was really bitter. And I kept trying to get her off her anger. I said, you know, I think you should come to India with me, and we really need to work on this. So she came to India, and I was in the hotel in New Delhi with her, and I had a dream that she took out a gun and she shot him. So I told her this dream. I said, you're really angry and you're trying to kill your husband. And she still didn't change. And lo and behold, she got very sick and died. So being bitter is not good for you. If the relationship ends, maybe it's supposed to end. And move on. Let go. Forgive your partner. There's a book called Conscious Uncoupling, and it's a pretty good book. I recommend you read that if you are ending a relationship. After you get over your grief, which is often normal, about a relationship ending, how about the idea of celebrating that it's over? Maybe you finally divorced your parents. What I mean is maybe your marriage was all about marrying your parent, one of your parents. And now you're letting go of that and you're ending the pattern. So often when you end a relationship, you're ending a very bad pattern. So you want to celebrate that you got through it. And I recommend you consider that. A lot of people ask me, well, should I stay in this marriage or should I leave? Now, I don't want the karma of telling them what to do. I want them to decide on their own. But I am able to help them decide. One time I was in Melbourne, Australia, and there was a large crowd, And I was in my room, and Babaji, my guru, said to me, there's 9 people in this training that want to leave their marriages. And I went, don't tell me that unless you tell me what to do. So he did. He told me what to do. He told me to go down the next day and ask the following question, which I did. I said, some of you in this training may want to be leaving your marriages. Here's how you decide if you should leave your marriage or not. You ask the following question. If I had no fear and I had no guilt and I didn't care what anyone said, would I stay or would I leave? Now, if they had no guilt and no fear and they got an answer, I'd leave, then they're out of integrity by staying because they just told the truth. So if they still got the answer, I'd stay, well, then they need to reconceive their whole marriage. So I presented this question to the group, and at the end of that training, all 9 people left their marriages. And I was shocked. I didn't know if they'd be upset with me or not. They were all so happy. They wrote me letters and said, thank God you came to Australia. I was in a dead marriage, and I might have stayed 10 more years if you hadn't come to Australia. So that's the question. If you have no fear, and you had no guilt, and you didn't care what anyone said, and remember, you could create a new partner with the thoughts in your mind, then would you stay or would you leave? Well, let's say you decide to leave. Most people still have some guilt about leaving. They still have some fear about the future, and that's understandable. So this requires what we call processing. You have to look at the thoughts that are causing your guilt. You have to look at the thoughts that are causing your fear and causing your anger, and you have to process them, which means you bring them up from the unconscious, you look at them, and you breathe them out with the help of a rebirther. This is the best way to process yourself, and it's very effective. It's understandable that you're going to be going through things when you change like this. But you can get the help you need. And you don't have to go into years and years of therapy. 1 or 2 breath sessions will put you on your way. If you are breaking up the family, strive to have minimum damage to yourself, to your mate, to your children. This is possible if you keep your head straight. You have to give up all your rage, all your anger, all your guilt, desire to get even and desire to punish, and try to be as understanding and loving as you can. And you want to remain friends, if you have children especially. Now, some people find it very hard to remain friends. We have some clients that they're still angry at each other after 10 years. 10 years after the divorce, they're still angry, and the children have been really messed up by this. It's not worth it. It can cause sickness, it can cause separation, it can cause emotional distress in the children. Some people think, well, we have to stay together for the children. I hear that a lot. But the studies show that what children want and prefer is that you and your mate are happy. That's what they really want. So if you end the marriage and get in a better one and you're happy, they're going to be happy. If there is an end to the relationship, it's important that you take personal responsibility for your part of the breakup. You need to look at what your patterns were that caused the breakup. If you don't, you'll get in another relationship and you'll have the same issue over and over again. Some people end a relationship and they get right back into another one without understanding what happened in the last one, and this is not a good idea. You need to understand your part, and you need to work on yourself so you can have a different relationship next time. I know this topic is rather uncomfortable, but it's really important to look at it because we can never say what's going to happen in the future. Yes, you may want to stay in this relationship forever, but we don't know if it's going to be that way. So if it isn't that way, you don't want to have your whole life ruined. You want to go on and become all that you can be and take advantage of what you learned in that relationship to go on and become a better person. That's the whole point. Always keep working on becoming a better person. Thank you so much. Look forward to seeing you next time.